Put off like 5 minutes. It's still over. It's like a 20.
What the?
Alright, it's live. Hi, Moss.
Test.
Yeah, it's a little low.
Oh, okay. I guess that's bad.
I need it right now, but I'm
It was kind of grilled cheese.
Okay.
What is this loud enough? Not loud enough? Okay. Turn it up a bit. I don't know if volume works. Is that the same? I don't know what makes this louder. This is kind of. I was thinking this guy, but I think it's this guy. It also
Yeah.
I don't think any of those. I think it's just everything.
Yes, long as plugged in.
Okay. Well, it's all the way up.
And then that one's blue.
Okay, that's sorry. That's no.
It sounds better now.
Push you. Yeah. Hello. Maybe let's see. We might start saying weird things. Can people hear this?
Yeah, no, it's that's just
Maybe nothing on this. Checking. Still the same. Very good. guess it's always different. I was trying to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I did this every time in the room.
Well, you went through like, did I wreck it in the reading?
No.
It like wasn't reading when I started, and I just thought it would be easier.
So try channel 2.
Let's try channel 3.
Yeah, I know. I saw it.
There we go. Okay. Who's that guy?
Over here.
Oh. Maybe the fourth one.
Might be like this effect dial is turning up all the way.
Oh, yeah, so turn that down.
The bass is a little high.
Okay, now, yes, okay.
We did a good job. I like that you were playing with guns.
It's already spicy.
All of you love. Yep. Why do you gotta mix it real?
It sounds good. I can go start to run it. So, like, nothing is I do have a joke on the floor. Okay. Oh, no. Well, I
So I wouldn't say like, yeah. Oh, I can't wait to go.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I started to answer. Stop. And then I was talking to and I was like, well, if you were listening to them,
Jacob, I'm sorry. I just saw it. Hey, you're in so. You're in a couple So I mentioned a lot of people that one of my poems I talk about games. So why I suppose it's kind of from your event.
Hi, Mom.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 2 of the BFA Proud Readings. We have 3 readings for you tonight. And the reason I'm up here right now is because our very first reader, Aspen, asked me to introduce her. So she asked me to introduce her about like a month and a half ago, because I'd argue, had like most of our creative writing classes together. And so, like, obviously, I'm up here now, so I agreed to do so. And last week, Aspen asked, what am I trying to say here, man? Sorry, I'm getting the jitters out from sitting on the sidelines over there. And so after Aspen asked me, I in turn asked her in order to return the favor. So she introduced me in my reading last week. Unfortunately, she ended up taking most of the material I was going to use. So I'm going to do my best to paint a picture of Aspen and thus her work. So Aspen is from Grand Rapids, Michigan. She often asks why she ended up at Bowling Green, of all places. And she's just kind of in general very direct about her opinions on Ohio. And in regards to that, Aspen is one of the most direct individuals I know. If you ask her what she thinks about something, she's going to give you the most honest answer you've ever received in your life. Like her job, her work, her opinions on anything, no formalities, no sugarcoating, just what's real, all right? Now, having had like basically every class with her, I've had the unique opportunity to see how Aspen's writing has developed over the course of her entire college career. So I've gotten to see her bounce between writing thrillers, writing romance, writing poetry about who she is, writing comics about dreams, writing comics about a duck also. But ultimately, I saw her slow development toward her writing niche. Writing real stories, writing grounded stories, writing stories where this could happen to anyone, real. She's a real writer, she's a real friend, and she's real enough, I think, to continue writing and telling stories well after college, even if she doesn't think so right now. She's part of the equestrian club, and she has a great cat named Kiwi. Everyone, give it up for Aspen Strauss.
Hello, Mom. Oh my God, this is awful. It's gonna make the sound. Oh wait, I can do that. Is that better? Yeah? Okay. Hi, guys. Oh, this is awful. Okay. Thank you so much, James, for that awesome introduction. I'm going to just kind of start right away for a little bit of background on my piece that I'll be reading. Essentially what this is a shortened version of my 30-some page thesis. Squishing 30 pages into 20 minutes is really, really difficult. So I kind of tried to compress my story together as much as possible while still giving you the idea of what this story is about. I will cut right to the chase on what this story is about. This story is about the planning of a school shooting. But it's not in the way that you would expect. Essentially, this story isn't about plot. Instead, it's about character. And no, it's not about the character development of a school shooter. Instead, it's a story about a girl who is given an assignment for a class and has to come up with a demonstration. I kind of got this story idea. Its inspiration actually came from a class that I did take here at BG. So I had to do a very similar demonstration, so I kind of got the inspiration from that. As James mentioned, I like to write stories that remind us that anything could happen to anyone at any moment. And just because you think that you're invincible to a situation doesn't mean that you're always protected. I think these topics are good reminders because even though we want to believe that nothing bad will or could possibly happen to us, bad things still do happen to good people. So without further ado, this is my story, Dauntless. Hold on, sorry, gotta prep. Okay. Monday the 7th at 6 p.m. Okay, everyone, let's get this class started. My name is Beatrice O'Hare, and I will be your professor. And welcome to our Education in a Pluralistic Society, EDFI 40-2090. I would also like everyone to note that although I am your professor, I don't enjoy being called professor. So from now on, I would like to be addressed as B. She looks around the room, flashes a big smile, and continues working over the syllabus itinerary. B was an older woman in her mid-60s who had a limp when she walked, a large woman with big breasts and short blonde hair that was so thin that you could see the top of her scalp. She wore round, small glasses and had an embracing and warm smile that radiated around the room. This class is based off of the movie Divergent. Who has seen the movie? Around the room, half of the students raise their hands, and B looks around the room pleased. Great, love to see it. If you haven't seen the movie, no worries, as I have a pirated copy on our Canvas site for you to watch for homework. She gives us a wink, and quiet laughter sounds the room. And after watching the movie, you'll get an idea of how the rest of the class will be run. B's head turns as the door swings open, and a tall student with dark brown hair walks into the room. And looks like you're my last one I was waiting on. Go ahead and have a seat over at that table. It looks like that's my last empty chair. B points to her table as I notice that the chair next to mine is open. Okay, she continues. Back to the important stuff. She continues to explain what our 6 to 9 class will entail, explaining that this class is based entirely off of the movie Divergent, and by using the factions, we'll learn about our own society. It's literally based off of the entire movie. Sammy questions the class itinerary as Mitchell sits back in his chair looking pleased. This class is going to be a piece of cake. I begin to doze off as B reads about the unimportant information from the syllabus and think back to the movie Divergent and the different factions and what their purpose was for society. Erudite are the smart ones. Dauntless are the protectors and the police. Abnegation are the ones who are selfless and can never look in the mirror for too long. Candor values honesty, Amity farms the land, and the factionless don't fit anywhere, where the divergence can't be controlled and fit into multiple different categories. After B's overly detailed droning on over the syllabus, I wait for my daydreaming of living in Chicago, wearing only black and white or grays, living in my faction, as she begins walking over to our table, assigning our first week's faction. All right, everyone. So you guys are going to be my group 3, and for your first faction, you will be Dauntless for week 1. You'll be working together to make a presentation about 45 minutes to an hour long or so, and for your Dauntless, you will be giving an active shooter presentation. She gives us a big thumbs up and hobbles away. Oh, and also, while you're Dauntless, you're in charge of being my police. So if anyone's on their phones, you get to report them. She gives us another smile, making her way over to the next table. Okay, so Sammy starts as she looks over the presentation requirements. It looks like someone has to be the leader each week for a presentation. We need a slideshow, have 2 different types of videos to play, talk about the causes and ways to prevent. And we also need to come up with some sort of demonstration. I look up from my computer, confused on how we could possibly come up with a demonstration for a school shooter presentation. Oh, hey, maybe we should all introduce ourselves at the table. Sammy looks across from her at the boy sitting next to me as she starts. My name is Sammy. I'm a senior working towards my psych degree. She flashes him a smile and nudges Mitchell to speak up next. Hey man, my name is Mitchell. I'm also a senior and I'm an exercise science major. He looks to me to speak up next. I shift in my seat to look at him, making eye contact. I get a good look at the stranger to my left. He has dark brown hair with a perfect part down the middle of his forehead, his dark blue eyes with freckles around the tip of his nose. Hey, I begin to say, as I suddenly feel a surge of awkwardness. My name is Carmen, and I'm a computer science major. I purse my lips together, slowly turn back to my computer, embarrassed at how awkward my introduction was, as I hear a quiet huff come out of his body as the corner of the stranger's mouth curl into a smirk. Hi guys, I'm Bennett, but you can just call me Ben. I'm also a senior and I'm studying criminal justice. Sammy looks at me from across the table as her eyes say a million words without a sound escaping from her mouth. She knows exactly what I'm thinking, that this stranger named Ben gave off a weird vibe, that either he wouldn't help one bit with the group project, or that he in general was just a freaky kid. The type that would stand in the shadows of the halls, and his presence alone would make someone feel uncomfortable. Monday the 7th at 7:17 p.m. We collectively decide on who's doing what for the project and begin brainstorming ideas. Sammy is quick to volunteer herself to be the leader for the first project, and not a single person objects. B wobbles her way back up to the front of the room and sits down in a swivel chair, letting her foot rest. All right, she starts. Now that we're all getting settled in, we're going to start first thing next week with presentations. My first 3 groups will go right away on Monday. Mitchell's hands immediately fly straight up to his face, dragging the skin down hard as his skin turns pale white. Week 1 and we already have to make an hour-long presentation. How the hell does someone even present for that long? How does someone read for 20 minutes? That's another thing. He draws out the G in long and aggressively rummages through his backpack for a piece of gum. He is gracious enough to let everyone out early from class for our first day, not wanting to overload us with information on syllabus week. As around the room, students gather their belongings and we get to head out for the night. Do you guys want to stay, or can we text about whose job is what for the project? Sammy starts to look around the room at the remaining students, as only Erudite decided to stay and work on their project. We might as well just stay and get some of the shit done, otherwise Monday's going to be an absolute bitch when this thing rolls around and it's due. Mitchell sighs as we all make eye contact and nod in agreement. Monday the 7th at 8:30. Time moves slowly as we've all been sitting in the same position for too long. We settle on who's doing what for the presentation, as Sammy decides that her and Mitchell will take on the majority, leaving only the activity left. Okay, so Mitch and I will tackle the causes, what to do in case of an emergency. Carmen, Ben, are you guys good to work on the activity? I give her a glaring look as Ben says, yeah, that's fine with me. We can work on the activity together. Ben looks at me and I have to give a small nod in agreement. Okay, great, then it's all settled. Sammy smiles at the progress we've made as the 2 of them begin to head out, as Ben and I agree to stay for a little while longer to try to come up with some sort of activity for this heavy presentation topic. Incoming text from Sammy. I don't know. Hey, sorry to stick you with Ben. Don't stay out for too long and don't let him kidnap you. You're too pretty to die alone on the street. I'll be at Mitchell's tonight. XOXO. I roll my eyes at the text and let out a sigh, beginning to text back. Love it before you love it. I am not an auntie. Monday the 7th at 9:12 p.m. Ben and I begin to examine the room inch by inch as we study the walls, the windows, every door and doorknob, how the lights turn on and off, and where the closest phone is in proximity to our table. Okay, so there's a lot of windows in this room, but I'm assuming they don't open for safety reasons. I walk towards the windows looking out beyond our campus square, as campus is deadly silent with an eerie vibe, as the dim lampposts illuminate the sidewalks that are occupied by none. Normally, this type of peace I enjoy while reading, but I don't have an Edward Cullen to talk to me while I doze off reading Twilight. Instead, I have a Ben. Ben joins me, standing a few feet next to me, his shoulders even with mine. I continue looking straight out as I feel his eyes on me. My fingers nervously tap at my side as the large room that we sit in daily suddenly feels unknown, deserted, and oddly small, as if the walls were caving in. Once a safe haven full of students now seems utterly wrong now with only the two of us left inside. Well, even if we did want to use the windows, there wouldn't be an escape. He laughs and points at the raised ceilings. I'm assuming they have to do this for safety reasons in case, someone decides to jump. My anxious tapping stops as I laugh along with him, finding it idiotic at the design of the building. I'm not really sure why anyone would want to come to this building specifically and jump, but, hey, who knows? They'd have better luck at the library, he says. More floors. Ben's eyes circle the room. We could probably find a way to move the chairs around and block the door. He starts towards a cluster of chairs. Hey, I'm not really sure that it'll exactly work, but before I get out my full sentence, Ben is already grabbing chairs, attempting to stack them up high. Not to burst your bubble or anything, but the doors are glass, so the shooter would be able to see right through the door, even if the chairs were stacked up. Shit, you're right. Plus, these stupid chairs are swivel chairs, so they don't even stack up on top of one another. I laugh at his willingness to try as I examine the room closer for other ideas on how to block the glass doors that see clearly into our classroom. I walk over to the closest table and knock. Hollow. Curious to see if the tables are bound to the floor, I attempt to lift one side with my hand as it gives ever so slightly. What if we moved the tables and propped them up to block the doors? Ben makes his way over to the other side of the table and lifts his end with both hands. The veins in his wrist become more prominent as he lets out a huff and laughs. Well, they're just a tad bit heavy, but if you think you can try and lift it with me, I say we try it. Together we lift the table and we drag it in front of the glass door. The table almost perfectly blocks it, not letting anything in, while also trapping everything else in the room inside. We both look to one another and shrug, knowing that this is our best idea yet to stop someone from coming in. Continuing to circle the room, a sudden idea begins to crawl around my brain, but I hesitate, knowing it's a risky idea that might come off the wrong way. Monday the 7th at 10:09 p.m. We sit in silence, staring at our computers, when my idea comes crawling back into my thoughts. So I think that I have an idea, but it's kind of fucked up. I clench my jaw together at the possibility of my idea, and I find I'm scared to tell Ben because he might run and tell everyone that I'm a psychopath. He turns his attention from his computer, and immediately I can see the fatigue in his bloodshot eyes. Hit me. So the whole idea of having an active shooter presentation is to educate students on the severity of the event and then have them learn and take something away from the presentation, right? Ben gives me a nod as he proceeds, all the words falling out of my mouth. I don't know about you, but when I was younger and we did all those active shooter drills in middle school and high school, no one ever took them seriously. He gives me another nod. Yeah, no one in my school ever took it seriously. We'd have all the lights off and the stupid boys would do anything they could to make the girls laugh and disturb the whole point of hiding in silence. Absolute idiots. They would be the first to die. Okay, so hear me out. I hesitate. What if we played shooters for the activity? His eyes, he pauses for a second, processing my thoughts, and at first glance, his fatigued eyes turn from tired to alert within seconds. So you basically want to play out a simulation? I guess, and I know, it sounds super fucked up to think about, but no one ever takes these things seriously. What if we honestly just scared the shit out of them so bad that they had to take it seriously? Make them think that it's real. I suck in my breath, knowing that Ben probably now thinks that I'm fucked up in the head for thinking of such a fucked up thing to act out. My thoughts ramble inside my head until finally Ben says, that's actually a pretty good idea. Not only would they take it more seriously, but I think it'd be kind of funny too. Ben's approval for the idea makes me smile, becoming more confident and relieved to be working with him, knowing that if Sammy would have taken over the entire demonstration, leaving me to hide behind her if the two of us were paired together. Monday the 7th at 10:32 p.m. We begin to brainstorm ideas for the play we're about to put on for the class, as my previous fatigue dwindles as a spurt of energy shoots through my veins at the excitement of my idea coming to fruition. I just wonder how we can make this as realistic as possible. I cock my head to the side as my eyes focus on the ground and then to the chair, to Ben's ankles. His white Nike socks are vibrantly visible under his black joggers. The socks are paired perfectly with a pair of Nike Killshot 2 leather shoes. And then it hits me. What if we somehow caught people off guard? My head still cocked to the side as my eyes still focused on his socks. Ben's focus shifts from his computer as he looks at me confused. You mean more off guard than pretending to be school shooters? This might be crazy, but I chuckle at my idea. Let's say we tell the class that we're doing an active shooter presentation and that we're pretending. I raise my hands in the air and bend my fingers making air quotes. So we are quote unquote shooters and I don't know, we could give them some time to see what they'll do. And then you and I burst in the room and throw stuff at them. Ben keeps his eyes on me, thinking of the idea. What do you think that we should throw at them? I shrug my shoulders. Socks? Ben sits quietly. That could definitely work, but I feel like people might be weirded out by socks. He laughs at my idea and I laugh back. The socks will obviously be clean. His smile fades. Yeah, gross, right? His smile fades and he goes quiet for a moment. As I glance in his direction and my smile drops at the sudden change of mood. Have you ever thought about how you would die? He now stares dead into my soul through my eyes and I feel locked in his gaze. My mind races thinking about all the ways that someone could die. Drowning, your body and lungs filled with so much water that you convulse, fall unconscious and you sink. Burning, smoke fills your lungs until you fall unconscious and you burn to ash. Sickness, as your body slowly stops functioning until you fall unconscious and you die in bed. Starvation, mauled by a bear, falling down a flight of stairs, popping pills, plane crash, tornado, choking. My mind rambles as my eyes shift back and forth between every way to die, until finally I say, I guess I just never really thought about it. I have, Ben says. I feel like it's crossed everyone's mind at some point. But if I were to die, I would want it to be quick, easy, and fast. He snaps his fingers together and the sound echoes around the room. No chance of someone stopping what's supposed to happen. Okay, so we've been on Monday. We're going to skip ahead in a week a little bit here to Sunday the 13th at 1:02 p.m. Ben and I agree to meet up on Sunday to finalize our project as we decide that we're going to act out our scene towards the beginning of the presentation. Since you weren't a fan of the socks, I kind of had another idea, but that might not take it a step too far. I clench my teeth together as my shoulders rise at the risky idea, riskier than the idea of the reenactment of being school shooters. Shoot, he says. Did you guys ever do a senior assassination during your high school senior year? He looks at me confused and shakes his head. Okay, well, it was actually really fun. Basically, the whole senior class played the senior assassination where we're given someone in the senior class to assassinate, and then last man standing wins, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, I have a Nerf gun that we used from the game we played senior year. And I was thinking, again, this whole idea of this presentation, it's to bring awareness, like we've already said. And we want to scare them so badly that they take it seriously. What if we bring in Nerf guns and pretend to shoot them with those? He stays silent for a moment. Like a clock's hand moving with each second, I fear that I now have taken it too far. And look, I get, that's probably way too much. Like I said, it's even more fucked up than our original idea. No, let's do it. Ben's eyes unfocused while staring at the ground. His mouth turns into a smile as he nods his head. You're a genius. Sunday the 13th at 2:14 p.m. I think that we should also put a big countdown on the main computer. That way all the TVs around the room have these giant numbers counting down, kind of big serial killer numbers. I laugh and Ben continues to nod. I turn to him and attempt to make eye contact. Is everything okay? Look, if I'm taking it way too far, you can just tell me and we'll dial it down. He turns to me and smiles. No, don't worry about it. Everything will fall right into plans. Everything will fall right into place. This plan is perfect. I smile back, feeling reassured that he doesn't think I'm a massive freak for coming up with such a messed up idea. You do have some sort of Nerf gun though, right? I think I might have bought 2 of them for my senior assassination if you don't have one. Oh, yeah, no, don't worry about it. I've got a couple at home I can pick from. Ben's eyes shift around the room as his cool composure seems to tighten. Big Nerf gun guy when you were younger, huh? I laugh at the idea of him playing with toys as it doesn't fit his personality, as he lets out a monotone laugh. Ha, yeah, something like that. Right. Okay, well, I'll see you on Monday then, shooter. I make a little gun with my hand and pull it back. You know, he starts, when I first met you, you were just this shy, quiet girl who gave me the impression that you let everyone walk all over you. But I can kind of tell now that after all this, you aren't anything like that. He gives me one last smile and heads for the door without looking back. Monday the 14th at 8:12 p.m., the presentation day. Okay, everyone, this will be our third and final group project for the night, Dauntless. B paves the way for our group to start as we all rise from our seats and walk to the front of the room. Okay, so we're gonna kick things off right away with our activity, and we decided to have an active walkthrough activity. I looked to Ben for him to read off the next section of our plan. Basically, we're gonna put you guys through a little simulation to see what you would do if an active shooter was in this building with intentions of coming into your classroom. He looks back at me to finish it off. Ben and I are gonna leave the room and pretend to be shooters who wanna come into your classroom. You will have 1 minute on the clock, and we wanna see what you would do if this was actually happening in real time. Ben chimes in to finish off the finale. And your time starts now. Nice job with the presentation. Ben smiles at me as he rummages through his bag. Oh, I let out a laugh. Thanks, I actually thought I was incredibly awkward and I didn't even say exactly what I was supposed to. I begin shuffling through my bag, finding the bright blue and orange Nerf gun and the 5 orange foam bullets with the little red tips. Carefully loading each one into the chamber, ready to shoot. I thank God that this class is so late at night because no students or faculty are in the building. Seeing kids walk around with Nerf guns, yelling at people to get on the ground might not give off the right impression. I glance over at Ben's bag as he slowly takes out a brown paper bag, crinkled and shoved deep into his backpack. Is that a brown sandwich bag? I huff and laugh at his efforts for this project. He looks at me with an emotionless face and my expression drops as he curls his mouth into a forced smile and he pushes out a fake laugh. Oh, yeah, you know, I just wanted it to be as realistic as possible, you know? We got to teach people something. We slowly make our way to the glass door and notice the students trying to stack the unswivelable swivel chairs. As Ben points to their efforts and I let out a laugh and shrug my shoulders. At least you weren't the only one to think of the idea. He rolls his eyes at me as the timer is close to 0. Ben grasps his brown paper bag tight, watching the TV screen in the classroom through the glass, watching, waiting, his foot tapping impatiently and erratically. It's do or die now. He flashes me a wide smile, one that I hadn't seen before. As quickly, he takes out his Nerf gun from the paper bag. I catch a quick glance, searching for the vibrant, bright neon colors. Ben and my gun look nothing alike. As Ben catches me staring intently at his gun, and his determined face that's plastered goes soft. I just wanted it to be as realistic as possible. So I painted it black. And before I'm able to arrange my thoughts into words, the timer starts to beep. Whoa, wait, Ben. Confusion takes over as he pulls back the top part of his Nerf gun as it clocks back chambering. He flashes me one last smile, a wide smile, as he runs into the classroom, his left hand placed firmly around the grip, the right pointer finger already curled around the trigger. Thank you.
Thank you, Aspen. That was great. As most of you know, my name is Morna Huey. I'm a professor in the English department here, and I've had the pleasure this semester of teaching the BFA capstone class, which means I've been watching this year's cohort sitting up here, doing the hard work of completing their thesis and, of course, preparing for these readings. And it's been just a great joy. I'm honored to be up here now to introduce the next reader, Sophie Corbacero. I first got to know Sophie last fall during my modern poetry class, which maybe wasn't her favorite class she's ever taken, but she did the work and she got through it. Speaking of work, This semester, Sophie has done an incredible amount of hard work on her BFA thesis. As you'll soon hear, she's writing about a truly difficult topic, and I do want to prepare you for that a little bit. She'll be reading from an essay about an abusive relationship, and some of it won't be easy to listen to. The essay comes from a place of healing and of looking back and of making sense of difficult situations. It is unflinching and honest and truly brave. It started as a work of fiction that she had already completely drafted and revised for another class. But when she and I had a conversation about what she wanted her writing to achieve, we realized it would make more sense as a personal essay, as nonfiction, which meant, again, a huge amount of work. She had to rewrite the entire thing from start to finish, which she has done this semester. And the result, as you'll see, is courageous and important. Sophie Corbacero has a passion for helping people to feel seen, heard, and represented through her work and through her life. Sophie served as her sorority's vice president of philanthropy in 2022, spreading awareness about domestic and sexual violence and raising over $7,000 for the Cocoon, Bowling Green's domestic and sexual violence agency. When she isn't writing, you'll find her going for long, aimless drives, spending cherished time with her friends, and on 3-hour phone calls with her mother. Please join me in welcoming Sophie Corbacero.
Hi, can everyone hear me in the back? Can I get a thumbs up if you can? Thank you. All right, hi everyone. Thank you so much, Imrak, for that. I really appreciate your introduction. Can we get another round of applause for Aspen, by the way? I am very lucky to be in a cohort with extremely talented people. Over the past 4 years, I've gotten to grow alongside and learn from the people that I'm in a cohort with, which I am eternally grateful for. So if you guys are free next Thursday, come to our last reading and come split the rest of us. That would be really great and fun. Thank you. I know that tonight is heavy, and I just want everyone to know that their mental health is of the utmost importance. So if the content becomes too much at any point, please feel free to take the necessary steps of taking care of yourself and walking away. There are flyers in the front for the Cocoon with information and resources. If anyone's interested, you can either take a picture or take one with you. And like Imrak said, tonight I'll be reading some of the portions from my creative nonfiction piece entitled Listen. This piece follows me on my journey of surviving an abusive relationship. I want to give a special shout out to my support system for making sure I made it here tonight to share my story with you all. To my amazing friends, family, cohort, professors, and advisors, thank you from the bottom of my heart. To anyone that may relate to this story, please know that I see you, I hear you, and I believe you. March 2024. As a senior in college, I've spent more money on self-help books, such as Why Does He Do That and It's My Life Now, than I have on all of my textbooks for the last 2 semesters. In the past year, I've spent more time going through 500 days worth of pictures, texts, and videos than I have sleeping or eating. In January of 2023, my entire world was seemingly flipped on its axis, leaving me more vulnerable and lost than ever before. That's the thing about abuse and trauma. They don't wait for preparation. They sneak up on you, often in the shape of someone you love. I still don't know exactly when I realized that's what happened, that what I experienced was abuse. At first, I struggled to call it that, and most of my memory has dissipated from the initial healing process, despite it only being a year ago. What I do remember is this: the pure adrenaline that coursed through my body when walking out on him and our relationship, the ringing of the signaling tone playing 20 times over as I kept calling my mom to tell her he scares me, to stop myself from going back. Going to my best friend's house the night of the breakup and telling her it's for the better. The combination of fear and validation I felt when 2 separate therapists told me I should look into getting a protection order against him, not feeling guilty for the first time when telling my advocate that he strangled me, the disgust I felt when the magistrate working my case asked why I would go back to him if he were harming me, suggesting that maybe he wasn't. If you're wondering the same thing, I don't blame you. Maybe it's a lack of education, a willful ignorance, a tinge of distrust towards me as an author and a person. Whatever your reasoning, I hold no resentment against you. There comes a time in every survivor's healing journey when they realize they don't care who does and doesn't believe them. Telling you that 1 in every 3 women in America will experience intimate partner violence won't change your mind. Reading statistics on the long-term effects of strangulation won't shock you to your core. But humor me for a moment. Allow my experience to be a glimpse into what a relationship like this can look like. Allow me to serve as the face of one of those 1 in 3 women, as a student, a sister, a daughter, a friend, a survivor. I stayed because I never experienced healthy love in a relationship. I stayed because I thought he meant it when he said he would promise me he'd get help. I stayed because I thought the way he spoke to me was just his accent making him sound rude. I stayed because I loved him. I stayed because I was convinced it was my fault. I stayed because I couldn't leave. I'm more than a number. I'm more than a statistic. I am more than my story, and I'm sure as fuck more than a survivor. But these are also all things who make me who I am. I'm here with you today to share a glimpse into a portion of my life. No ulterior motive, no life lesson, no happy ending. Just a 22-year-old girl working through her trauma by making it the topic of her thesis. June 2022. The back screen door creaks open, then slams shut. Large feet with black Jordans appear at the top of the steps, the rest of the body staying hidden. My eyes dart over to the metallic digital clock in front of the television. Red numbers project 3:12 p.m., and a bitter cacophony of bile and saliva plays against my taste buds. He left for work at 8. He shouldn't be back until 4. Why is he here? What did I do? Gizmo bolts from across the basement and onto my lap, shivering in his curly brown coat as if it were negative 15 degrees. I stroke his back, focusing on each mahogany ringlet, the hairs moving like a wave over his small body. Each step thuds down the stairs with a heavier weight than the next, and resentment and disgust seep off of his shoes and spill onto the carpet. There are 9 steps. I know this, like I know there are 2 copies of Jesus of Nazareth that his grandmother gave him under the television. Like I know there are 4 holes in the walls of his basement's living room. Like I know there are a total of 12 bears on his Grateful Dead poster. Like I know there are 8 missing panels of fake brick on the wall across from the back door. I hear Wade's final step. His presence stimulates the pressure of 5 tons against my chest, a feeling I never knew existed until meeting him that I became all too familiar with. An ache forms in my lower back from the hard floor beneath me, and I shift my weight against the matted rug. Moving to the couch would be more comfortable, but it would mean engaging with him. Recently, I've been trying to stay silent and docile in hopes it will limit ridicule. Different trials and errors of ways I communicate with him seem to be beneficial for our relationship. I'm fucking done, Wade grunts, walking past me into his bedroom. Gizmo cocks his head up at me, flowing waves of comfort into my heart through his shimmering hazel eyes. I stroke his shaky football-sized body, but I think my hand is shaking more than he is, that his body isn't shaking at all. Only I am. Breaking glass pierces my ears from the other room and stops my heart. I lift my hand from Gizmo's back and unconsciously bring it to my chest, waiting to feel a heartbeat again. The stabbing against my organs builds as my heart starts to beat again, this time twice the pace and strength. A pang shoots down my right arm, and any saliva in my mouth has dried and left it sticky. Another bang comes from 2 rooms away, the familiar crunching of drywall breaking against a fist. Gizmo gets up to hide in his kennel, leaving me to fight my own battle. This was a common practice for us. Wade would come in angry, most times about nothing in particular, and I'd try to stay as neutral as possible to gauge his next actions. He's the type of person that could watch a mother playing with her newborn baby and still find a way to call her a whore. It wasn't always like this. I couldn't tell you when everything changed, when he turned from attentive and doting to belligerent and venomous. It was so gradual and meticulously planned that I didn't notice it at first. I thought the outbursts were just mood swings. I figured the lack of emotional intelligence stemmed from his father's behaviors towards him as a child. I tried so hard to be understanding and patient with his emotions that I lost sight of my safety in the thralls of my love for him. I'm going to fail my class. Why the fuck are you just sitting there? I lift my head. The black champion crew neck he sports is more wrinkled than he would normally allow himself to wear. His gray Nike sweatpants look too small for his long legs. His right hand is red and pulsating, but not bleeding. He reeks of content and desperation all at once. I just want to help him. Tell me what happened. Let's just see what we can do. Spite-filled eyes bore deeper into my skull. With one eyebrow raised and his mouth agape, he inches closer to me. Why are you on the ground? You're not a prisoner. There's a couch right behind you. I was just playing with a gizmo, so Wade kicks the wall beside me. Are you deaf? I said I'm going to fail. Get the fuck up now. He hisses down at me, his tall frame seeming more like a shadow than a recognizable person. I place one unsteady hand on the floor beside me and start to lift myself from the seated position. "Stop taking so long," he says as he digs his fingers into my right arm and yanks me up midair. "Why can't you just listen?" I wrap my arms around myself, and Wade starts pacing around the living room. "There's nothing that can fix this. I'm screwed no matter what." I unintentionally put space between us, stepping a few feet to the right to get out of his orbit, allowing my body to take care of what my heart can't. Small winces are sent down my spine with each gnaw I take against the inside of my cheek. Metallic saliva swishes over my tongue and down my throat as I attempt to swallow the saltiness of it all. "I already told my mom this stupid-ass professor doesn't accept late work," he exhales on his third lap around the room. A tinge of hope spreads through my chest. "It's just a late assignment. This can be fixed." I release a breath of air I had been holding, and I feel the weight release from my body. No, it's okay. We can definitely fix this. Just email your professor and explain." Wade's head twists in my direction, and within 4 strides, he's in front of my face. With one swift motion, his hand comes towards my chest. The force of a head-on collision slams against my diaphragm, and any remaining air escapes me in an involuntary grunt. The back of my head smacks against the wall and embeds tiny pieces of vinyl into my scalp. Waves crash onto the shores of my eardrums, and a fisherman's net gets caught in my throat, eliciting a guttural groan. Wade's hands stay pressed firmly against my chest as I look up at him, tears and sweat doing a treacherous dance down my face. A gasp comes from my mouth as I suck in all of the air I have been missing these past few seconds and can feel blood course through my body once again. "Didn't you hear me? He doesn't accept late work. You need to listen," he shouts with the same wrath his father had. You're hurting me, Wade." The back door swings open for a moment, revealing 2 of Wade's roommates at the top of the steps. The 2 helping hands across from me pause for a moment. One stands in front of the other, propping the door open with his left hand. Neither Wade nor I move, and I'm still being pressed against the wall, unsure if I'm imagining the wetness on the back of my head or if it's blood from the impact. I shoot pleading eyes at his closest roommate, wanting something to be said. "What are you doing? Get your hands off of her. Wade, you need to calm down." But that doesn't happen. His roommates turn to one another, whisper something inaudible, and head back out the door, leaving me alone with the monster I love. Wade backs a few inches away from my face and keeps his hand firm against my body. "I wasn't trying to hurt you." The already overflowing water from my eyes starts to run like the Maumee River. My brows furrow in a mixture of anger and sorrow, and my fingers tingle. "I didn't mean to hurt you," he says again, this time with softness in his voice, false remorse in his eyes. "I really didn't. God, I didn't. I'm so sorry." His hand releases from my chest and reaches around to my back, pulling my body into his. A cocktail of coffee and lavender permeates my nostrils as he pulls me tighter against him. The same hand that once pressed me against the wall, the same hand that injured me, now strokes the back of my bruised and potentially bloody head. The pain starts to dwindle the longer he holds me here, and a few sobs escape my dried and cracked lips. I wanted to say, "Nothing gives you the right to put your hands on me," to scream, "Get the fuck off of me, Wade." I wanted to stand up for myself, to get myself out of this situation. Looking back now, there are so many things I would have done differently. I would have told my friends. I would have asked his roommates for help. I would have run out of his back door and never looked back. But like most people in abusive relationships, I didn't want the relationship to end, just the abuse. Many victims still love their perpetrators. I know I did. I would have done anything to stop his rage, anything to be healthily loved by him. Instead, I default to, "Please don't do that again. It scares me." "I won't," he says, kissing the top of my scalp. "I promise I won't. I love you, Sophie." I slowly lift my head from his chest and look back at the wall, seeing 2 new panels missing. Shifting my weight, I feel small shards of sharp vinyl pressing against the heel of my left foot. There are 10 missing panels of fake brick on the wall. I know that this house will forever be haunted by these moments. I just hope it isn't also haunted by me. April 2023. We've been sitting in conference room 7A preparing for the trial for the last 3 hours. The comically long wooden table takes up most of the space in the room, further causing the air to blanket and crush me. When Katie, my lawyer, entered the room at 8:04 a.m., she told me about the outcome of the police report I made on April 6 against Wade. Despite it being the second time in a week that he broke the protection order, the officer went home without filing a report that night, letting Wade and his entitlement off. My friend and I reported that he was in the bar intimidating me for 10 minutes when it was really 7. I attempt to loosen the tightening of my jaw at this information, but it seems to be glued shut with no movement in sight. Our biggest pieces of evidence are the 2 police reports you had to file, the text messages where he berates and harasses you, the letters he wrote to admitting to the abuse, and the witness you're providing from the night of July 5th when Wade attacked you. Sometimes I feel like I'm being a survivor wrong, especially in moments like these. Of course, there's no right way to be a survivor, but the amalgamation of overlapping emotions I've been experiencing has prompted me to search for symptoms of psychosis weekly. I feel so much guilt for the love I still find myself having for him. I mean it when I say he destroyed my life, that he caused irreparable damage to my body and mind that I will never be able to shake, that I still hear a Boston accent screaming that I'm a child anytime I try to believe myself. It's all true, but so is the love I had, and maybe still have. I remind myself daily that 2 things can be true at once, that it's not my fault I fell in love with an abuser, that I can hate him for his actions towards me, but still wish he was the person I thought I was falling in love with. I draw a swirl on my notepad like I'm playing a game of MASH and try to process what I'm about to experience. I know his attorney is going to question me. Katie prepared me for all of it. The accusations, the belittling, the victim blaming. Knowing doesn't mean I'm ready for it. I don't want to be asked why I stayed through all of the abuse, why my breaking point was over a verbal argument and not after all of the times he got physical, how I could love someone who hurt me as much as he did and somehow still find the strength to protect myself from him in the end. These people don't understand what it's like to beg someone to love you right. They don't know what it's like to be put on a pedestal one day and thrown into a wall the next. They've never had to say between sobs, please stop hurting me, and get the response of it's because I love you. Despite this, I never want them to. Having to experience something as painstaking as craving healing from the exact person who hurt you is unbearable. Even when finding the courage to want to leave, the only person who could heal my emotional and physical wounds was Wade. He tended to the wounds he created with such intricacy and care. He doused them in a mixture of hydrogen peroxide and I'm sorry before wrapping them in compliments and stabilizing them with the reminder that he loves me. For a long time, no friend, family, or therapist could comfort me in the ways that he did. Even if they could, I didn't want them to. I wanted him to. I wanted him to stop hurting me and start loving me. I don't wish that on anyone, not even these people at court. Sophie, Katie says, grabbing my hands, hey, you're shaking. I don't notice the tingling in my fingers and the instability of my hands until she points it out. I quickly pull them back into my lap and continue to stare at the swirl I drew, refusing to make eye contact. A lagoon's worth of tears has been rising behind my eyes, and I fear if I let them fall, I won't ever stop. I've been trying so hard to not allow this to consume me over the past 2 months, but it's becoming impossible. Every limb of my body burns and tingles, and my lips feel numb. I don't remember the last time I took a breath, but holding it feels much safer than breathing right now. Even the smallest inhalation may allow the largest sob to escape from my mouth. I'm going to leave the room for a minute to swap evidence with his attorney, but I will be right back, she says before disappearing into the labyrinth of courthouse hallways. Here, I'm left to wonder how I'm supposed to find closure in a relationship that he won't let die. Even if I am granted the full order, I know Wade will never allow me to put a definitive end to us. He will always try to watch me, torment me, control me. No foot distance could stop the rage he has inside of him. Within minutes, Katie re-enters the room with a single piece of paper, a picture of scratch marks on Wade's neck from July 5th. Scratch marks that only existed because his eyes were full to the brim with rage when he strangled me. Scratches from the night he told me I wasn't trying to choke you, I just wanted to get your attention. From the night he chased me to my car as I tried to put distance between the two of us. The night he got arrested for drunk driving, trying to find where I ran off to. I wonder what lies he told his lawyer about their existence. I wonder what lies he told himself. A painstaking hour and a half of preparing goes by before the sergeant comes in and tells us that Wade's attorney would like to talk to Katie. She doesn't come back into the conference room for another 30 minutes. Gold bangle bracelets jingle against her wrist as she slowly presses the wooden door shut. Rubbing her temples, she starts. So I talked to his attorney. He's making Wade agree to the restraining order due to how much evidence we have against him. What feels like the biggest breath of air shoots from my mouth. Knowing I don't have to have my life, experiences, and mental health ripped apart in a courtroom brings me a level of peace I didn't know possible since meeting Wade. Katie takes a seat next to me and rolls her neck before continuing. I know this is great news for us, so I want you to be excited. But I do want you to know that when we told the magistrate we were coming to an agreement, she outright told us she was planning to rule in Wade's favor before even seeing the evidence. A surplus of rage shoots through my fingers. The consistent neglect and disregard the court and police have shown for survivors in the city is detrimental. What would have happened if they didn't agree to the terms? Would the magistrate have realized that I was telling the truth, or would she have ruled in his favor no matter what? Hundreds of little lines run across the table to showcase the wood's age. Hundreds of years of women suffering at the hands of the person they love. Hundreds of ways to get ignored and dismissed by court. I still feel responsible for the abuse I faced because I didn't stop it, because I didn't leave. I ask myself if I deserved it. Maybe not every time, but 3 or 4 of them. I must have said something wrong. I must have downspoke with my voice. He hated that, and I learned it from Mom. Don't talk to Mom as much. She's making you sound annoying. The 2 months leading up to this were spent re-traumatizing myself daily to compile evidence, to prepare for the accusations that would be made against me. Months were spent remembering every detail of his abuse, not to prove a point, but because my safety depended on it. Relentless nightmares and panic attacks meant nothing to these people. I meant nothing to these people. All I was seen as was another number, another statistic, another 1 in 3 looking for refuge and only finding blame. You may wonder why I'm doing it again. Opening the sealed jars of emotions and memories that live inside my brain for an essay. If I'm being honest, I don't have a set answer for you. I've asked myself the same question every time I sit down to write. You've already been through enough. Is this even worth it? Will people even care about what you have to say? I don't know. I don't know if you or the person next to you cares about a single word that I wrote on this page, but I don't think it's about that. I think all of this is for me. I think it's all about choice. I never got to choose what happened in my relationship with Wade. He called all of the shots. He made all of the rules, but not anymore. I'm done letting people dictate what I have to remember and talk about. It's up to me now, and that's more freeing than you could ever imagine. March 2024. Surviving an abusive relationship is listening to Cherry Wine by Hosier 24 times a day so you feel less alone. It's putting a desk against your door every night. It's getting re-diagnosed with PTSD. It's feeling the debilitating paranoia that he's going to kill you in broad daylight in the middle of your campus. It's your friends being proud of you for doing normal things like going on a first date. It's shutting down anytime someone slams something or raises their voice. It's anniversaries, it's smells and sounds and feelings and everything in between. Some days, I will wake up and feel like none of it was real. Like it was all a story I wrote for one of my creative writing classes. On other days, I won't be able to leave my bed out of the fear he'll be hiding in my garage waiting to slit my throat. Healing isn't linear, but neither is feeling like you're a survivor. Sometimes I feel like there's something rotten inside of me that draws men like Wade into my life. Something that I need to cut out from my innards and give to the dog as a treat. I feel as if I was destined for this life, multiple traumas at such a young age. Maybe it's repentance for a past life. Maybe it's a plan from God. Maybe the world is just a fucked up place. Maybe I'm not the problem at all, but abusive people are. For a long time, I was convinced that the positive comments about growth and change and finding individuality were just optimism. There's a large chance it was. I don't think anyone in my life knew how to help me move through healing from my abuse. Hell, even I didn't. I still don't. That's the thing. I'm still not healed, and I don't know if I ever will be. Wade stole more than I could have ever imagined possible, but somehow, some way, I'm still here today. I look back on March of 2023 and see a version of myself that was broken. I was on the verge of unenrolling for my final year of college. I wanted to move back home to Cleveland. I was going to let him win, but I couldn't let that happen. I couldn't let him determine my future. I had to be the one to write my life story. I left so I could relearn how to wake up without having to live in fear. I left so I could have the choice to see my friends. I left so my future nieces and nephews wouldn't have a shell of a person for an aunt. I left so my mother wouldn't have to see my face on the Channel 3 news as the next domestic violence victim. I left for all of the women's mothers that had to face that reality. I left for every victim and every survivor. I left for him. I left for us. I left for me. Thank you.
Hey all, my name's Sam, and tonight I was given the honor of introducing Nathan Wofford. Nathan is a man who is, despite everything he says, he is an extrovert. He does not believe it, and I know he is terrified to come up here and do poetry tonight. the first thing he did the first way I met him is we were sitting in French class and he walked up to my table, sat down in my seat and personal space, and started telling me about a musical he was writing. It was a musical about a kid in our class who snuffed him once, David Gagne. And ever since then, he's been furious with him. On from that, Nathan has taught me how to play guitar. He has taught so many of us how to read and write. Not read. I've known him since childhood. He's taught so many of us how to write better and taught me how to experience poetry. Nathan is truly an amazing man, and I cannot wait to hear what he's going to have to say today.
While I get set up here, why don't we get another round of applause for both Sophie and Aspen? Because those are what? I have a very loud voice. I'm surprised they gave me a microphone. Okay, so before I get started, I just want to say a big thank you to my family, my roommates, my closest friends, and my family that are watching in the live stream. It means so much that you guys are here. Probably means more to me than any words I could ever say, but I'll try my best with my thesis. So tonight I shall be reading from my thesis entitled The Young Adult Experience. I made sure not to call it the young adult experience because there's no definitive one. The beauty of growing up is we all have our own experiences and they shape us to be who we are today. And sure, there might be some similar stepping stones, but we each take different paths and we get to where we need to be. So my goal is to show you some of my stereotypical ones and also kind of dive you into what has made me who I am today. And I figured what better place to start with two of the biggest stepping stones to adulthood, and that's learning how to cook and realizing I know jack squat about cars. And also, Dad, I do swear in my poetry, so you just need to... Cooking. Pinterest put me on a quest, giving me a purpose similar to what God gave King Arthur. Seek the Holy Grail. Only mine shall be coated in marinara. My most elegant meal used to feature oven-cooked dino nuggets stomping violently in a field coated with cheesy noodles. Experience with cookware was limited. I destroyed 2 crock pots before I learned how to use 1. The smells my roommates produced with their meals hoisted me from the ground, floating, so my nose could find the source. My mom was an archaeologist, helping me to decipher the ancient texts, directing me towards completion. How the hell do you fold ingredients? A cup of pride and a dash of disappointment directed toward me. I discovered fire. The landlord's heat source was primitive, but banging rocks above the hypnotic swirls of the burner made colors dance in my face. Touching the flame crossed my mind, but my more developed cortexes stopped me and put me back in my century. Salted pasta water sprung up, scalding my skin. Minced garlic danced in bowls doused with tomato sauce, and sausages sung sweetly in pools of olive oil. It was beautiful. No natural phenomenon could ever compete with the feeling of my brain gaining wrinkles. Now came the scary part, waiting. I felt like the first father ever on earth, marching up and down the halls, or cave, I guess, waiting for a sign my partner will create a miracle. My fingers burrow into every fold and wrinkle of my face. My heart stops. A grandfather clock chimes hauntingly from my phone. Silence fell over the whole kitchen. The ingredients simmered down. The pot lid hid the conclusion from me. Gingerly, the lid raises to the heavens. What fate awaited me? A success! A creamy sauce where sausage and tortellini lay in a bassinet that was forged by Rachel Ray herself. As I run to inform my roommates of my good fortune, they come floating from their rooms, their noses determined to find the source. The Ballad of Breaking Cars. Movement 1. A simple journey turns to chaos once the brass section decides to improvise. They screech in fortissimo. The other sections startle and drop their music. The violinists throw their blocks of rosin to the ground, assumed to be for shits and giggles, and the air is unbearable. The glockenspiel chimes a high octave C, then it rolls over to the baritones. Each note they play sounds as if loose change rattled in the body of the instrument. I stop the piece, frustrated. My dad chimes in from the audience. I want to get that checked. Movement 2. The highway's tempo would match that of an allegro, so imagine my surprise when they decide andante seems to fit better. I exaggerate my arm movement and hope that a musician will notice, but they are all zoned out. A couple people were falling asleep. The audience behind me is furious and demand I pick up the pace. Flustered, I call my dad. He came up on stage reassuring me that the earth was still spinning. He calls a critic on stage. Yeah, this art just sucks. He replies in a matter-of-fact voice. I roll my eyes and watch him drag my orchestra away. The audience zips past, leaving me alone with my dad. Movement 3. During Vivaldi's most intense season, I decide to give conducting another shot. Snowfall glares at me, but sitting around with a block does not pay the bills. I raise my patalik baton and cue in the percussion. A drum roll begins, a pattern of 16th notes. My right hand raises to signal the cellos and the brass, but their chairs are empty. The percussion then improvises a retardando, a new rhythm in triplets. I shake and shake the baton harder and harder, hoping that some other instrument will play, but then the percussion comes to a grinding halt. Tinnitus fills the space. My face seeks refuge in my palms. The percussion players quietly tiptoe away from the stage. My score has so many scribbles and symbols, I can hear Mozart groaning. Desperation influences me to FaceTime my dad, wondering if the piece is worth salvaging. He groans at my sorry state. I'll be there in a bit, and hangs up, leaving me alone in the winter air. So this next piece that I have, I wrote 2 poems about common problems in the young adult experience, and that is burning out and doom scrolling. And I decided to go with burning out because that, I like that one a little bit more. Name something that can burn out. A woman slams her hand on the buzzer and shouts, candle. It was the number 1 answer. 16 years of schooling is starting to show on me. Assignments strip all energy from me, grating me like cheese. The sun plays peekaboo through my blinds as I try and wiggle out of its glare. I get notifications of people on beaches and at concerts, whereas I'm looking up what the fuck a 1098E is. How do you not know this? My dad asked the other day. I ignore the vibrations he creates on my thighs. His wisdom and attitude oversaturate my brain. And to think I'm the most together son. How did Laura only get 37 points on Fast Money? I binged entire seasons of cartoons and TV series through a drip feed. Each unhealthy drop stuffed with nostalgia, like Take Out Happiness, that keeps my brain giddy, like getting a kid's meal. The carpet beckons for me to lay on it. Its roughness and stale colors try and seduce me, but my folding chair embraces my being better than any ex-girlfriend. The microwave is now beeping. What did I reheat? My brain feels like a clump of wax stuck to the inside of a votive. No amount of poking will move it. My eyeballs shrivel from the blue lights of my computer. Sockets secrete tears to moisturize my brittle peepers. My computer slams shut. Bones and muscles relax as fairy lights become the only source of light as midnight creeps closer. The pages to read tonight get added to the pile of work for tomorrow. I don't know how Aspen and Sophie did this without drinking water. My mouth is so parched.
Yeah, I forgot to bring my own.
So this next piece involves my job that I've had for about 6 or 7 years now as working in the restaurant industry. COVID definitely didn't help that. It made it so much worse. And this poem is a prose poem that hopes to shed some light on what goes on behind the scenes. The Siren of Restaurants. I would have never thought motorboats were a valid business expense for a restaurant, but COVID finds a way to make reality cartoony yet again. American Express cards no longer walked through our doors, which pushed back a lot of repairs. We felt more like a shipwreck than an actual restaurant. Leaky ceilings, bathroom doors falling off their hinges, walls falling apart. If Lake Erie ever decided to overflow, our restaurant would become an aquarium decoration. Our behemoth of a flat top became our white whale. The shoddy cleaning jobs became scurvy to the wiring. It was doomed to never turn on again. In its absence, our company thought it best to purchase 15 non-stick skillets. Its slower pace made our guests ravenous. Plastic coats our grill chef's face. The nonstick glare evaporated and sought asylum in his pores. We call him Plastic Beard now. Every employee got motorboat licenses, now mandatory at each location of the company. I asked for a change in the restaurant's name to Siren. Laughs emanate from each employee, but the managers are too busy silencing disgruntled ones. They banish outspoken employees off bits of the dilapidated ceiling, feeding them to the rocky waters of unemployment. Now that the brave ones are gone, there won't be any coups. 15 minutes after opening, the first victims marched through our doors. They were businessmen from a couple addresses down. I pinched myself, but sure enough, the sight I saw was true. They stripped their fancy suits off to reveal the hidden inner tubes and snorkels. They swim past all the red flags and secure them a spot in the middle of the dining room. They take pictures and comment on the water coming out of the walls. We aren't Rainforest Cafe. They both order salmon, but I told them it would be a minute as the salmon have newfound independence. They saw the open waters of our restaurant and were eager to have a new home. The chefs try and catch them with tongs, knives, and fryer baskets, but they swiftly swim around each attempt. They laugh at the chefs for their stupidity, thinking that they could best them in their element. Our managers glance over to see what the problem is, but speed walk away when we try to ask for help, because then they'd have to do their job. The chef gave up after 10 minutes. Salmon's better raw anyway, he screamed in defeat. Protests erupted in the kitchen. The salmon rallied the cod with them. We now had shrimp and calamari rejoicing with fish for equality in the kitchen. They performed sea shanties and filled the fryers with wine. It took some convincing, but the salmon agreed to be plated. Maybe if they saw the gentleman who would consume them, they'd cooperate. The salmon took one look at them and swam upstream toward the back door. My manager parked next to the guests and asked how I was going to fix it. The urge to become a banish-worthy employee welled up inside of me, but I wasn't going to let some corporate corrupt pirate plunge me into the sea. I'm not, I stated. Before he could scold me, I abandoned ship and swam to the door. A nasty storm was brewing outside. Before I was berated with a wave of self-doubt, I was greeted by my old coworkers on an old dinghy, arms extended, welcoming me aboard. By show of hands, how many people here are a sibling of sorts? Okay. How many of you are the oldest sibling? Cool. So these ones are for you guys. The next two poems that I'm going to read are about the joys and terrible parts of being a role model. And I'm fortunate enough to be the oldest of 4 boys, and they drive me crazy, but I love them to death. Navigator. A crusty map is the key to salvation, according to my parents. Simple trees and cardinal directions become hieroglyphics impossible to decipher. Just follow the trail and you'll be set. What trail? The wrinkles and folds hide any trace of a straight path. When I asked for equipment to ensure my safety, they instead changed my life. 2 tiny children become my responsibility, gawking at me like a zoo animal, modeling their lives after everything I do. I mostly make mistakes. Their reckless attitudes fill me with so much dread. I can make that jump, they tease before trying to leap between mountains. I strap harnesses to them to keep them safe from themselves. When decisions of where to go pop into our sights, I live both decisions to ensure that they're on the right trail. Now there's another one. Air dropped onto us in a bassinet coated in balloons. A message stuck to his forehead. 2 seems too easy. Here's another one. I fashioned floaties for them. A river polluted with hormones lay in front of us. Chirps of yippies put all the birds to shame as they glide across the water. I take the brunt of the currents they don't fall in. All they get is BO. People demand I branch out for opportunity. They claim there are mines lined in gold, west and east, that will give me what I want. I refuse. As titillating as it may be, I'm hesitant to leave until I know they're safe. Now here's the bad part of it. An oldest brother's broken sonnet. Teeth laced with mental illness, hypnotic eyes transmitting self-doubt, a being attached to me like a symbiote, gnawing away at me slowly. Irreparable damage litters my physical and mental body. The monster I was told to conquer torments me. I'm haunted. My brothers can't see me like this. They have to grow up too. The scars and baggage become heroic tales that would make my parents proud. They grow up faster so they can start their journey to be just like me. Anxiety builds as each brother leaves, the next one more eager than the last. Okay, so the next two poems are going to deal with some of the things in the adult experience we don't want to deal with, and that is the process of grief and the feeling of loneliness. And this next poem I wrote last year when my great-grandma passed away, so this one is dedicated to her. Grief. The carpet grips to my back with the same roughness as my father's facial hair. His hair is tainted with a saline content. I think there are Dorito crumbs in mine. The phone recites concerns for my dad. I ignore them. If I acknowledge the real world, she stays dead. When the last of your great-grandparents passes, it fills your head with disaster scenarios. Age scars my grandparents more than before. Their skin illuminates sites of tampering. My parents finished their will. What are they expecting? Despite only seeing her maybe 4 times in my life, she was still family. Every time I went to see her, I was coated in monochrome. Pictures older than my grandparents lined the walls of her small apartment, accompanied only by medical staff and the infrequent visits of other relatives. The age scared my younger self, her hand resembling a mannequin's in the process of melting. She felt out of place. I stare at my own hand now. Warm light painting it with life. All of a sudden it's dark. My light bulb has died. The faint humming has stopped. All that remains is a warm corpse. I hold him in my hand and restart the grief process. My phone reminds me of an essay that's due by midnight, but I organize the light bulb's memoir instead. I produce a coffin made out of manila folders filled with work I never finished. I force my roommates to come to the service as I light the coffin on fire. We fill the bathtub and watch the incinerated grave float until the flame finally fizzles out. My roommates leave, uncomforted by my unblinking eyes. Ashes dance down the drain. My phone buzzes uncontrollably every 30 minutes. He keeps reminding me of family and assignments that still have to be dealt with. My roommates screw in a new light bulb. The room lives once more. They hug me goodnight. The panic in me day crescendos. I slap the side of my face and call my dad. He answers immediately. The thing I miss most. My 2 best friends picked out rings. Round 2 of the honeymoon phase has kicked in. I'm prideful. They're family to me. I laugh at the jokes I have yet to make at their wedding. I smile in anticipation for scrapbooks Kat will entertain my eyes with, and I'm eager for what their lives have yet to bring them. Their happiness fills me with life. But I stop and stare at their hands. Interlocked, reminding both of them they are a team. Brushing through hair in moments of comfort, resting on each other in moments of relaxation. That is what I miss most. Not the hugs, not the kisses, not the laughs that follow my snarky comments. I miss the simplicity of a comforting, warm hand. Soft and painted hands juxtaposed against my calloused and jagged ones. My hands would serenade her hands would tame the storm. I break my gaze, afraid of an uncomfortable situation, and stare at my own hands, interlocked, wishing someone else wants to hold them. Alrighty, so these are my last 2 poems, and this one came about kind of accidentally. So I played a drinking game with my roommates and my friends and got really drunk. They can attest, it's probably the drunkest I've ever been in my life. And the next morning, one would think I would wake up with a hangover, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna write a poem. And that's what I did. Alcohol. The legality of being over 21 has made the art of drinking less fun. The taboo and risk of being underage added thrill, which made the highs intoxicating. Knowing your limits is still, the joy of being reduced to a silly mess has its perks. Knowing your limits is like knowing the cheat code kids gossip about on the playground. A numb you tickles its way to my tongue after slurping shots. My body is a waterbed, rocking my organs like jellyfish stuck in a current. Fuzzy. The tips of my fingers, the memory I will wake with tomorrow, the world all around me. Fuzzy. Benevolent beings stare down on me. I rest my head on their laps, warm fingers intertwined in my hair. Slobbery cliches spill from my lips, expressing my gratitude. A smile, plastered to my face when they reciprocate. And this last poem turned into a prose poem because I was working with my genre advisor, and he read this poem and he was like, Nathan, I think this wants to be a prose poem. And I was like, I don't know if it wants to. But then I sat with it and I was like, yeah, all right. So initially this poem was going to be in a trilogy of poems about my brothers, but after reading and rereading this thing, it evolved into something far greater than I ever thought it was going to be. And I guess you'll see what I mean by that. Brickberg. Due to our volume and ambition, my brothers and I were banished to the basement by the law of our parents. No longer shall our Lego spaceships soar through the house while carefully trying to survive ruthless dogfights. No longer shall our Lego people be able to mount cats for faster transportation. No longer shall our Lego bricks litter the floor to discourage intruders from our personal belongings. Our Lego world was without a home, but a bustling metropolis blossomed after an old model train table was given life. Brickberg, creative capital of the world, population 200, real population 4. We moved into Brickberg to escape the hassles and responsibilities of the real world. In Brickberg, our what-if scenario from TV could become real life. In Brickberg, our efforts and limitations were celebrated. In Brickberg, we were popular. No adults to tell us we were bad at life and no more social anxieties. We didn't worry if we were annoying or a burden to people. Spider-Man was our best friend. My younger brother started a business on Brickberg's busiest street. It was a cafe where its owner, Grillby, wanted a place where everyone could put aside their personal politics and agenda to have a space where everyone was brothers. When a city is full of ninjas, stormtroopers, and superheroes, chaos is a given. The walls varied in color and shape. Bricks were pulled from different destroyed sets from over the years. One of the walls was actually an old TIE fighter, an accidental act of unity. During the opening ceremony, my brothers sheltered their faces in their palms, nervous that a war would break out, leveling all their hard work. Their fears were squashed once laughter echoed in their ears. Once their palms were seated, the laughter had faces, and they joined the party. Glasses clinked with a plastic accent as translucent studs poured out from their mugs. Success was now tattooed to their brain. They even expanded to food service, a risky move considering who was down the street. Below Dr. Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum was a pizza parlor owned by Chef Pepe. He was well loved in the city and even stopped wars with his pizza. A worthy rival. Soon, other businesses sprang up which gave our city streets more purpose. A seafood restaurant that must have been built on a cemetery, a delivery service that definitely was not a front to fund the Star Wars villains, and an even popular coffee shop, Central Perks, found a home. The city was expanding and each project filled our eyes with more excitement. Hours were spent making sure everything fit on the table. As the years passed, more sets and characters came to our city hoping to find a home. Meetings were held with my brothers in order to find out which section of the table would better suit each citizen's needs. Lengthy construction projects were charted, but my brothers couldn't stay with me long. Because Brickberg was an embassy in our parents' world, their political influence enforced my brothers to a bedtime. One by one, they migrated upstairs, leaving me alone with unwavering smiles. I placed my phone on the table. I told him to let me know if any of my friends reach out while I continue the process. He remained quiet for the rest of the night. We finally fit in somewhere. The four of us were load-bearing pillars that made life possible. We were not gods to these plastic people. They accepted us. Hands and feet we once knew to be fleshy were gone. Faces that could express thousands of emotions became stained with smiles. We were restricted, but it felt like freedom. I tried to fight against it, but the city had to continue on without me. I moved out of Brickberg. Growing up was no longer an impossibility. The real world sounded enticing from the ways my parents described it, but it's not like how the cast of Friends makes it seem. People were harder to talk to, ideas were tougher to build on, jobs more stressful to complete. In Brickberg, I could construct a city block in a couple hours, but writing academic papers took up whole days. The motivation to continue with these projects was hard to find. Brickberg had spoiled me. And yet, I'm never moving back. Friends, both old and new, made the world exciting again. Their presence and kinship created warmth no plastic person ever could. In Brickberg, my days were spent helping citizens, creating this ideal utopia. But in the real world, my days could be so much simpler and I would get the same fulfillment. Something as simple as watching TV, playing a video game, or sharing a game night with the people you cared about became nirvana. Love felt real again. It was never in the cards, but in the real world, I made a life worth living. Out of spare Lego pieces, I constructed a small diorama of Brickburg and put it next to my computer. Its skyline feeding my procrastination with fond memories in the hopes I work faster. I never do. My roommates and other close friends observe my small utility with curiosity. Not many people know about Brickburg, but maybe soon I can construct them vacation houses within the city to show the people I love, the place I love. Thank you.